All right, what up YouTube? We're going to dive right into it today. We're going to talk about the Federal Reserve now quite possibly being bankrupt, and the citizens, the tax-paying American citizens, are now paying for the Federal Reserve's bad decision. We're actually paying the Federal Reserve to absolutely destroy this economy. Our hard-earned tax money, this is how it's being spent. Ready? Let's dive deep. Fed's net income turned negative in September, but it was no surprise. New York, October 12th, Reuters. The Federal Reserve net income turned negative in September. Minutes from its most recent policy meeting showed, although the largely technical development, previously flagged by its staff, will not affect U.S. central bank's ability to conduct monetary policy and does not threaten its financial position. At the September 2020th to 2021 meeting, a top New York Fed staffer said that, as expected, the Federal Reserve's net income turned negative in September. The minutes were released on Wednesday. Also noted the central bank staff expect the Fed will face negative income for some time. The looming turn to technical losses had been noted in the minutes for the Fed's July policy meeting. The U.S. central bank earns income from bonds it owns and from services it provides to the financial sector. After covering operational expenses, it hands over any extra earnings to the Treasury. In recent years, money handed back to the Treasury was substantial. The Fed transferred back $109 billion from 2021, the central bank said in March. That was well over its $86.9 billion in so-called remittance handed back in 2020. The Fed's bottom line is pressured by tools it uses to set monetary policy. The central bank deploys two rates to manage the federal fund rate. Its chief lever is to influence the path of the economy. The Fed's fund rate now stands at 3 to 3.25% target range and has risen rapidly from near zero levels in March. To manage the fund rate, the Fed uses something called the reverse repo rate to set a low end. That rate is now 3.05%, and another tool, the rate on reserve balances, to define the high end, now 3.15%. Both rates pay financial firms to park their cash on the Fed's books. Some analysts have estimated that the funds rate were somewhere between 3 to 4% range. The money the Fed would need to pay to maintain the reverse repo and reserve balance rates would tip it into a negative income space. If we swing over to the Fed's website, we can actually see the reverse repo, and we can see this is where the Fed is actually allowing banks and investors to park their cash for short-term gains. So in order for the Fed to be a money market, they need money. So they pay banks, right? These large institutions, the largest corporations in the world, the ones that are destroying this economy, in my personal opinion, are now getting paid with taxpayer money because the Federal Reserve doesn't generate enough revenue themselves to offset these expenses. But the only thing the Fed seems to care about is their political risk. Fed officials have reportedly stressed that central banks' negative income is not like a conventional bank losing money. The Fed addresses negative income in what's called a deferred asset, which is an accounting measure that the central bank would need to seek to cover when it begins to turn a profit again. As the Fed's most recent data, the size of the deferred asset now stands at $2.9 billion. So the Fed is now printing money to pay off its debt, which in theory then is going to increase inflation. I can't believe that we the people allow this to happen. The minutes released on Wednesday said the deferred asset should rise over time, although no number was given. The minutes said the staff expected that the size of the associated deferred asset would increase over time until the net income turned positive, likely in a few years. Pretty crazy to think that the tax-paying people that are going to get crippled by the Fed tightening and the Fed's having control over a free market. If this was a completely free market and the Fed just did its job and didn't try to stabilize and intervene with these markets, maybe we wouldn't be going through such an economic crisis right now. And now that we're going through a crisis, the U.S. taxpayers and Congress are going to be fronting the bill for the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is a branch that is not controlled by any government, that is a private company where we the people do not elect any officials, and these officials dictate how much money is put out into circulation. Crazy, crazy. One factor that will drive the deferred asset higher is the fact that the Fed is far from done raising rates, which means it will face even higher interest costs over time. The Fed has penciled in more rate increases while it seeks to lower inflation, which by the central bank's preferred measure is running at more than 3 times its 2% target and is eyeing a funding rate of around 4.6% next year. So what that means is on the Fed's reverse repo here, when banks and these large corporations are parking money in their overnight reserve repo, the Fed is paying them 3 to 4%, well 3.25% right now. So every time the Fed raises interest rates, the Fed is inherently spending more taxpayer dollars. And that money would be going directly to the largest banks and corporations that are parking their cash in the reverse repo. Unbelievable. Having negative income doesn't impede the monetary policy that we're doing, but I do think that it poses a communicational problem. Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester told reporters on Tuesday, Fed watchers have said the biggest risk to central banks from a negative income situation is political. Profits handed to the Treasury have been seen as a deficit reduction for one thing, and some elected officials may wonder why at any time the Fed has acknowledged its rate hikes campaign will put some Americans out of work and cause economic pain. It is paying banks and money funds, many of them foreign, just to park cash in the sidelines. So did you guys catch that right there? The Federal Reserve is now paying money funds and foreign banks interest with taxpayer money. Fed Chair Jerome Powell might have a lot of answers for when he testifies before Congress early next year on monetary policy, said Derek Tang, the economist at forecasting firm LH Meyer. Pretty crazy, guys, that our government is allowed one unelected branch, right? We didn't vote for Jerome Powell. We don't elect central bankers, and these are the people that control and are now sending this economy into an absolute tailwind. Why? Because they try to intervene with a free market. And this is the direct result of government officials trying to stabilize and control a market. Why do you guys think that the crypto market is so stable right now and is now less volatile than the S&P 500? Because it's a free market. There's going to be booms and there's going to be busts. But when you let the free market play out, the free market always wins, guys. So what is the Fed going to do next? What band-aid are they going to put on this? What random word are they going to make up to disguise the truth? I think that social media is finally giving the general public the power to actually understand how central banks work and what these guys are actually doing and how messed up it is. And it's our taxpayers that are paying for it. Again, my name's Ryan Matta. Love you guys.